Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Now you know things are getting weird when the President of the United States starts talking about buying entire countries, but that's exactly what happened back in 2019 when Donald Trump expressed interest in purchasing Greenland. Yes, you heard that right. Greenland, the world's largest island, known for its ice caps, polar bears, and, well, not much else. The media had a field day, of course, with headlines screaming about Trump's latest outlandish idea, but was it really that crazy? I mean, countries buy and sell land all the time, right? Well, as it turns out, buying a whole country, especially one that's technically part of another country, Denmark in this case, is a bit more complicated than picking up a new condo in Florida. Now, this wasn't the first time the US had shown an interest in Greenland. In fact, the fascination with this icy landmass goes back quite a bit further than most people realize. Back in 1867, Secretary of State William Seward, the same guy who bought Alaska from Russia, what a shopaholic, considered making an offer for Greenland. Seward was a visionary, always looking to expand American territory and influence. He saw Greenland as a valuable addition to the US portfolio, much like Alaska, which he famously acquired for just over $7 million. Fast forward to 1946, and the interest hadn't waned. President Harry Truman offered Denmark a cool $100 million for the island. This was right after World War II, a time when the US was solidifying its global presence and looking for strategic advantages wherever it could find them. Denmark politely declined, probably thinking, what is it with these Americans and wanting to buy our icy backyard? The Danish government had its own plans and priorities, and selling Greenland just wasn't on the agenda. But why all the interest in a giant chunk of ice? It's not just about the cold, barren landscape, there's much more beneath the surface. Well, besides the obvious strategic location, Greenland has a wealth of natural resources, including oil, gas, and rare earth minerals. These resources are incredibly valuable, especially in today's technology-driven world. Rare earth minerals, for instance, are essential for manufacturing everything from smartphones to electric vehicles. And as the Arctic ice melts due to climate change, access to these resources and new shipping routes becomes more and more important. The melting ice opens up previously inaccessible areas, making it easier to extract these valuable resources and navigate through the Arctic waters. So, the US has always seen Greenland as a potential strategic asset. Its location is crucial for military and geopolitical reasons, providing a foothold in the Arctic region. This interest is not just a relic of the past, it continues to shape modern geopolitical strategies and discussions. The story of Greenland and its allure is far from over, as nations continue to vie for influence in this strategically important part of the world. Strategically speaking, Greenland is kind of a big deal. It's located smack dab in the middle of the North Atlantic, making it a prime location for military bases. The US already has one there, Thule Air Base, which is part of its early warning system for ballistic missiles. But it's not just about military might. Greenland's melting ice caps are opening up new shipping routes and access to those precious natural resources I mentioned earlier. We're talking oil, gas, uranium, you name it. China has also been sniffing around the Arctic, investing heavily in Greenland's mining industry. So you can see why the US might be feeling a little possessive of their northern neighbor. Fast forward to 2019, and Donald Trump, the self-proclaimed master of the deal, throws Greenland back into the spotlight. He reportedly asked his advisors to look into the possibility of buying the island, sparking a diplomatic kerfuffle. The Danish government was quick to shut down the idea, calling it absurd. Trump, never one to back down from a Twitter war, canceled a planned trip to Denmark and called the Danish Prime Minister nasty for her comments. The whole thing played out like an episode of Real Housewives of the Arctic, and it didn't exactly do wonders for US-Danish relations. But beyond the diplomatic drama, Trump's proposal did raise some interesting questions about the feasibility of buying a country in the 21st century. Let's not forget about the people who actually live in Greenland. They have their own thoughts on this whole being bought and sold thing, and spoiler alert, they're not too keen on it. Greenland is home to about 56,000 people, most of whom are Inuit. While they have a high degree of autonomy from Denmark, they're not exactly jumping at the chance to become the 51st state. They're concerned about preserving their culture, language, and way of life, which they fear could be threatened by becoming part of the US+. they've seen how the US treats its indigenous populations, and let's just say they're not exactly lining up for a repeat performance. Section 6 International Law, the deal breaker. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, that Denmark was actually open to selling Greenland. Imagine the scenario. Denmark, after much deliberation, decides to entertain the idea of selling this vast, icy territory. They're not, but just humor me. Picture the diplomats, the politicians, and the Greenlandic people all caught up in this whirlwind of negotiations. There's still the small matter of international law to contend with. International law isn't just a set of guidelines, it's a complex web of treaties, agreements, and principles that govern the actions of nations. The United Nations Charter, which governs the behavior of nations, explicitly prohibits the acquisition of territory by force or coercion. This foundational document is clear. No nation can simply take over another's land through aggressive means. And while some might argue that a financial transaction wouldn't constitute force, it's hard to imagine any deal that wouldn't be seen as inherently coercive, given the power imbalance between the United States and Greenland. The sheer economic and political might of the US compared to Greenland creates a dynamic where true free will could be questioned. Plus, there's the issue of Greenland's right to self-determination. This isn't just a legal technicality, it's a fundamental principle that respects the autonomy and wishes of the people living there. International law recognizes the right of people to freely determine their own political status and pursue their own economic, social, and cultural development. This means that the people of Greenland have the right to decide how they want to be governed, how they want to develop their economy, and how they want to preserve and promote their culture. In other words, Greenland gets to decide its own future. Thank you very much. The voices of its people, their aspirations, and their dreams are what truly matter in this equation. Any external attempt to alter their destiny without their explicit consent would be not only legally questionable but morally indefensible. Section 7. Experts weigh in. A purchase too far. So, what do the experts have to say about all this? The idea of the United States purchasing Greenland has sparked a lot of debate and speculation. It's a topic that has captured the attention of economists, political analysts, and environmental scientists alike. Well, most agree that the chances of the United States actually buying Greenland are slim to none. The concept, while intriguing, faces numerous hurdles that make it highly improbable. It's simply not going to happen, says Dr. Rasmus Leander Nielsen, a professor of international relations at Georgetown University. He points out that such a transaction would require not only the consent of Greenland's government but also the approval of Denmark, which currently has sovereignty over Greenland. The legal and political obstacles are insurmountable. The complexities of international law and the political ramifications make it an almost impossible feat. Others point out the potential economic fallout. The financial implications of such a purchase would be staggering. The United States would be on the hook for billions, if not trillions, of dollars in infrastructure costs. Greenland's infrastructure is not developed to the extent required for modern needs, and the US would have to invest heavily to bring it up to standard. Not to mention the environmental cleanup, says Dr. Jennifer Francis, a senior scientist at the Woods Hole Research Center. Greenland's pristine environment would require significant efforts to maintain and protect, especially if industrial activities were to increase. And then there's the whole issue of optics. The perception of such a move on the global stage cannot be ignored. The image of the United States trying to buy a sovereign nation in the 21st century would be disastrous. It would evoke memories of colonialism and imperialism, which are highly sensitive topics in today's world, says Dr. Ian Bremmer, president and founder of the Eurasia Group. He emphasizes that such a move would likely damage the United States' reputation and its relationships with other nations. It would make the United States look like a colonial power. The backlash from the international community could be severe, leading to diplomatic tensions and a loss of moral authority on the global stage. In conclusion, while the idea of purchasing Greenland might seem like a bold and strategic move, the reality is far more complex. The legal, economic, environmental, and diplomatic challenges make it an unfeasible proposition. Experts agree that the United States should focus on strengthening its existing alliances and addressing global issues through cooperation, rather than attempting to acquire new territories. The future of international relations lies in collaboration and mutual respect, not in the acquisition of land. The world is watching, and the actions taken today will shape the geopolitical landscape for generations to come. Section 8. So, can he buy it? The short answer? No. The slightly longer answer? Still no, but with a healthy dose of it's complicated. Look, the idea of one country just buying another outright is pretty outdated. It's like something out of a Risk game, not the real world. Even if the United States wanted to buy Greenland, and it's not clear they do, and even if Denmark was willing to sell, which they're not, the legal and diplomatic hurdles would be impossible to overcome. Plus, let's not forget about the people who actually live in Greenland. They have their own aspirations for their future, and becoming a United States territory probably isn't high on the list. Section 9. Conclusion. The future of the Arctic. The Arctic is changing rapidly and Greenland is at the center of it all. As the ice melts and new opportunities emerge, we can expect to see more competition for resources and influence in the region. But the future of the Arctic shouldn't be decided by backroom deals or territorial grabs. It should be decided through cooperation, collaboration, and a commitment to sustainability. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for watching.